Hey, welcome to Creative Block. We're your hosts, Gene.
And V, we interview people in creative industries about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We asked people on Twitter if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
And today with us, we have Michelle Lam, aka Mewtripled. Hi!
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Michelle, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi. So my name is Michelle Lam, and I am currently a Los Angeles-based artist working in the animation industry. Currently, I'm a story artist at Unknown Studio, but I also create comics on the side. I'm also in the midst of publishing 2 graphic novels, and I guess I juggle a lot. So in this day and age, I just call myself an artist and try to broaden my horizons and stuff. So yeah, and I also create YouTube videos on YouTube.
So you said Unknown Studio. Can you elaborate on that?
So basically, I'm working at an animation studio, but I don't know if the name is something that I feel ready to release yet, but I will eventually talk about it. It's just I'm still formulating when I should say it and what project I'm working on. So yeah.
Okay. That's exciting. I like the mystery.
I know. It's something that I'm definitely like, well, when the time comes, it'll definitely be a juicy conversation.
Ooh.
Yeah. Those are fun. I feel like animation is a lot of that. It's just sitting on good news for like 2 years and just waiting to get the actual validation.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell us how you got your start in illustration.
So, well, in art in general, it kind of started ever since I was a little kid. I was just like any other child who binged random cartoons back in the 90s to early 2000s, like The Land Before Time and any Disney movies and Pokemon and just any of those old classic animes like Tokyo Mew Mew, which is pretty much the origins of my username that I'm now stuck with for the remainder of my life, I guess. I just loved watching cartoons as a kid, and my dad was, well, both my parents were always super encouraging about it, but my dad particularly was always like collaborating with me and would write stories on pieces of paper, and he would be like, okay, now draw what I wrote or something. But it's mostly me telling him, being like, hey, write a story and then I'll draw to it. And he'll be like, okay, fine. And then he would just staple pieces of paper together, write like a mini story about, I don't know, a hamster or something. And then I would just draw like things to the story. And, you know, from that point onward, I feel like that's when I developed an interest in drawing sequential art. Like I did like drawing like single drawings in general, but I think something that really made me particularly like comics animation is because whenever I drew something, the reason why I like doing it was because, oh, something is happening, rather than like just draw a person standing there and smiling or something. So that's kind of how I got interested in comics, animation, and that world of art.
That's really cool that you started doing sequential art so early on, I think. And also that it was like something that you did with your dad. I think that's like really sweet.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's something that I'm just like, wow, I never knew something that was so innocent and silly back then would actually evolve into a career.
What are some of your first like bigger projects that you remember kind of embarking on?
So like when I was a kid or when I first started in the industry?
Let's start with a kid. That's always fun to hear.
Yeah,
about.
like any project that like took a significant chunk of time, you know, that you were like, oh, I'm actually committed to this, you know?
Yeah. So actually, when I was a kid, that was when I started my YouTube channel that is still existent today.
Oh my God.
Wait, how old were you?
I was like probably 10 or 11, and
wow.
This is still the same account I've been using on YouTube ever since then. Like if you look at my history, it'll be like created March 2011 or something like that. And that was when I first just joined YouTube, and I saw that there was like a community of people who just made animations on YouTube through MS Paint and Windows Movie Maker. And these were kids that were teenagers that were kind of slightly a little bit older than me. Like I was still a tween, but they were teens, and they were making their own fake anime openings and animations. And I got totally inspired by that. And I was like, I could totally do something like this. And I had a Windows computer also, so I just ended up copying everyone, but making my own stories, but copying their process of like, I'll just draw like 50 pictures and create an animation on Windows Movie Maker by assembling all of these individual drawings I did on MS Paint together. And I kind of just joined this community online of, I guess they called themselves fanimators or something.
Oh, very cool. Is that a forum or is that like a website?
No, it's not a forum or website. I just think it was the term that people use to describe like, oh, that people, the community on YouTube that just made their own fake animes or animations or whatever their series, and they would all be like, yeah, we're going to create like our own series of animations, and then we would all never follow through with it because we were just teens and we didn't realize that like, hey, you need a whole team to create an animated series. But we were just overly ambitious, naive kids that are just like, you know what? Fuck that, I'm just gonna do it anyway. And you just like make your own like fake anime openings, fake endings, and then you might animate like maybe part. I know, right? And then after that you're just like, well, I'm done. That's all I needed to do. The opening is all I needed to accomplish.
That's all that matters.
So yeah, that was kind of like the first like serious, I guess, quote unquote project or thing that I joined.
That's really cool that you found a community through YouTube. I feel like that's the first time we hear people like of someone getting a community through YouTube. I feel like usually like we've heard stories of like through Newgrounds or through like DeviantArt, but I think that's like really cool. Like, would you kind of like, because I think community is something that's like really important when you pursue an interest in arts, because you do need to have that mutual encouragement from your peers. And I was wondering, like, were you kind of like DMing, or like did you have like a group chat to kind of, or was it just kind of like looking at each other's videos and commenting on like the videos, I guess?
Yeah, so back then YouTube did have private messages, but it no longer exists now.
I forgot
so
about that, yeah.
I know, right? It's so weird. And I'm just like, wow, I just have this whole inbox that's gone forever now, but whatever. I don't really want to read my old cringy dialogue anyway with like all of those emojis back then. So yeah, mostly nowadays it's through comments, but back then it was kind of both DMs and comments, and people would kind of make video responses to each other or like kind of make memes, or kind of like, oh, if someone started this trend, other people would kind of copy it. It's kind of like TikTok nowadays too, where except instead of just videos, it was literal animations where people would find a song and animate to it. Like Caramel Dancing was one of them. And then like everyone would do their own Caramel Dancing video with their own animations. And it was like really fun, I guess. And I did also have a DeviantArt back then, but I guess that came later after YouTube, because again, I think the thing that drew me about YouTube was like, I could like make a whole animation and again, do something that aligns with telling a story. Whereas like, I don't know, something on DeviantArt made me feel like I'll have to make like this one single beautiful piece, and that was intimidating to me.
Yeah, they definitely like push people towards a certain aesthetic. I think because it was like a gallery and everything was so like, and then like they introduced, I remember, I think it was called like sketches or something. There was like a whole other section where you could put like work in progress stuff. I think they were trying to correct that, because that definitely, I think a lot of people probably had the same feeling, like everything had to be purposeful and like, you know,
I think it's true. Like a lot of people were like, I remember feeling intimidated by DeviantArt about like, because how did they call it? They called it like a deviation.
Deviation. Which like I didn't really know what that meant. Like it was just, that's the word that's based on the name of the website. But thinking on it now, it's like deviation. Like, come on. It's so extra.
I know. And like recently I just logged into my DeviantArt account just to see what's been going on. So when I logged in, like I saw all of these like old notifications and like all my remnants of the past, but then like ever since I logged in again, they keep emailing me and be like, oh, Mewtripled, because that was my username back then. You have 36 notifications. And they keep emailing me to remind me that I exist there. And I'm like, oh my God, stop.
Yeah. DeviantArt will not let me delete my DeviantArt account, which is a source of paranoia. But
I know, actually, now that I think about it, I'm just like, I should go back there and delete some stuff.
I like buried some things. Like you can put things in the vault or whatever. But I don't know. I kind of like having like a chronicle of my old work, because I if somebody digs it up, if some kid digs it up, it's like, hey man, look where I started, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool though, that like you really started on YouTube, and like the way you describe your process sounds like it was closer to storyboards than actual animation, since you were like doing like a sequence of pictures rather than like, you know, frames of animation. Or I think, am I getting this right? Or were you trying to animate?
So back then I was actually animating like 2D animations and stuff, but I would never finish them completely. It would just be left like as the line art, the sketches, the drawings. And there were only very rare occasions that I actually fully colored a scene and rendered it and everything. But I think the part that I always enjoyed the most was like creating my own fake little animatics, where it's like, oh, I just can basically describe like what the camera and the character is doing and just like get the point across. And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm done, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't finish it afterwards. And I used to have this series called Unfinished Animations, but I privated all of it mostly because I used copyrighted music like for everything. And I'm like, if I want to be monetized on YouTube now, I'm not sure if I should keep these up. So I pretty much I privated all of them, or I deleted them. I don't know. But like they used to just be series of just unfinished animations I did, where it was just like me just either animating or storyboarding to like my favorite song or something like that. And yeah, it's kind of like how nowadays storyboards are kind of getting a little bit more animated, I guess.
I see. Yeah.
That's been a whole discussion too.
Yeah.
Did you pursue art at all during high school, or was it like a choice that you made when you were deciding on college?
So I think when I was in high school, early high school, I still had no idea what I wanted to do in the future in terms of what is my career. Like I actually don't even know if those were brain cells that occurred in my brain at that time. Sure. I was just like, I'm just attending school. One day I'll go to college, but that feels far away right now. And I like drawing, and that is my life. But then once I hit junior year in high school, is when my mom was like, Michelle, start looking into schools, make a list of where you want to go. Then we have to like assemble all of these trips to go visit these colleges. And I was like, wow, life just suddenly got so overwhelming. So that was when I started to learn about animation as a career. And I was like, originally, if we really wanted to go to my origins, I think I used to just really want to become a mangaka living in Japan, making my own comics and just have some studio pick it up. And I'll be like, yeah, that's great. That's my life. Yeah. But I think living, of course, in the United States, I don't see moving to Japan or pursuing that career as something that is likely anymore, at least. And I was just like, well, what is the closest thing to that in the United States? Well, that's probably going to be animation. And honestly, at that time, I did not really have that great of an interest in Western animation because I grew up mostly with anime and like Disney sometimes, but like it was still mostly anime. So I was just like, well, I guess I'll just have to force myself to start drawing more westernized. And there was a very specific phase when Tumblr was a thing and, everyone was on Tumblr. I remembered making a post being like, I'm so sad that I have to like start incorporating drawing westernized cartoons into my style. This isn't what I want to do, but if I want a job here, that's what I got to do. And that kind of like, I feel like when a lot of people talk about my style nowadays, they're like, yeah, your style is like a mix of Western and Eastern. And I'm like, yeah, because I had to just, adapt to be able to get a job here.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. That's so funny. That I like that story of the Tumblr post because I do think this is relatable. That's like a discourse that comes on the internet often. I think it's changing now, but I feel like definitely like 10 years ago, it was a thing where it was like, can I put like anime inspired drawings in my portfolio?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wanted it. I know. I remember the days too when I used to bring my portfolio to different schools and I would show professors that were, you know, probably the ones that were going to decide whether or not if I would go to this school. And like anytime they turned to an anime-esque page, they'd be like, yeah, not that. Or like, I don't know, they would like shrug at it and stuff. And then now I'm just like, anime is probably one of the most like popping animation like niches happening right now. And I'm just like, wow.
Definitely.
Throwback.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to endure that so the youth of today can thrive.
Yes, exactly.
We suffered for you.
Yeah, I think it's also just like I think the money is talking. Like execs are like
money is talking. For
anime is doing really well on streaming platforms.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm just like I'm happy that anime is finally gaining like the recognition because I don't know. It's kind of sad because now I like literally don't watch any like animated things unless if it's like a film that comes out and it's like, okay, I'll go watch it with friends and family. But like back then it was just like I would binge series and stuff like that. But now I'm just like, now I don't watch anything and it's doing so well. And I don't know. I just don't have the time to watch all of these series anymore.
I was just thinking about that too. And like, I mean, part of that I think is just getting older and growing up and like, you start to enjoy other things, you know, you just like prioritize life a little bit differently. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I really don't watch any animation despite like working my whole life to get into the industry.
Yeah.
And I think also, you know, I don't know about you, but like working in it starts to kind of poison the enjoyment of it. You know, it's like a lot of things where you start to see all of the like mistakes or you can kind of feel things happening behind the scenes or like, in some cases, I like know somebody who worked on a show and I don't like them, and so I'm just like I'm looking at it and I'm just like I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, there's just too much of like reminders of work nowadays. Whenever I watch, even like sometimes live action, just because whenever I get feedback from directors now, they're just like, well, in live action it would be like this. I'm like, shut up, don't tell me that.
Oh yeah, they love oh yeah, we could talk about this for a while. That's so crazy. I do feel like it's funny. I do enjoy watching some animation, but I do realize that because we have to work for such long hours, the only animated shows that I quote unquote like watch are the very talky shows because then I don't have to look at the screen as much.
No,
which is,
exactly.
Like, really sad.
Same. It's because when I also watch stuff, it's because I'm watching it while I'm working. So the audio or whatever is talking, happening dialogue wise, better be super entertaining.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, corny dramas are the shit when when you need something in the background. That's the best noise.
Back to a little bit to like you're going through your journey. Did you apply to multiple colleges or did you just apply to CalArts? How was that like journey for you a little bit?
Oh my gosh, so that was definitely like an existential crisis in my life for sure. So I actually learned about CalArts from my mom, so we can thank her for like the reason why I went to that school, because she was just like, Michelle, there's this school where like everybody is making these student films and it's kind of like what you do on YouTube, but they actually finish their stuff.
They actually finish? Damn.
I know.
Mom burn.
I know, because my mom, she's very supportive in like what I do, and like, you know, a lot of like Asians at least get that stereotype of, oh, you know, your parents don't want you to be an artist, whatever, they want you to do like be a doctor or something in that world. But I feel really fortunate to have had my parents who they were actually very like to some degree like strict, but I would say in a good way. Like I feel like I can thank them for my level of discipline today. But they're like, you know what, like if you're going to do something with your life, at least choose something that you want to do, but we're gonna like really be pushing you to like do well in that thing that you love to do. So I guess it's like kind of it's great because it's like, oh, I have someone who's supportive of my goals but will actually like hold me like somewhat accountable and stuff. So she introduced CalArts to me, and that immediately became my first choice of school because I was like mostly drawn to the fact that everybody gets to finish 4 student films per year. And that was like what I was kind of already really interested in doing, is making my own animation or something, and I can actually have a school now help me get better in my entire craft while actually having a completed project to show. Like at this stage in life, a story artist, like concept designer, character designer, like all of that was not even in my brain yet. I was just like, oh, I could finish like a video for once. Great. And yeah, that was like the top school. Then other schools that were on my list were the School of Visual Arts in New York City, because I lived in New York, and if I got into that one, then I don't have to move. I also applied to Sheridan in Canada, Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, and Ringling. And I think those were, the 5 schools I applied to. And I got into, so there was a time in life where I got into all of them except Sheridan. And Sheridan was just posting me on a wait list. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. I guess if I got into CalArts, like I'll just go there. But like there was something about Sheridan too that really appealed to me, because I always found that the quality of the work finished at Sheridan seemed to be like a little bit more refined and like a little bit higher quality in my opinion. So that kind of really appealed to me. But by that time I was just like, you know what, CalArts is the way to go. And that's where I ended up going.
Oh, that's great. Like CalArts is a great school. And it's all like, there's often like, people online asking like, what should I put in my portfolio and stuff like that. Did you put your animations in your portfolio at all?
No, so I actually didn't, because I don't know if during that time they even accepted animations or different types of work. All I remembered was my portfolio was almost super fine artsy, where I had life drawings or observational drawings of people and environments and stuff like that. But I didn't have anything that was like, oh, this is my animation that I once did a long time ago, or here's an animation reel. And if I did incorporate anything that was somewhat cartoony, it would be in the sketchbook, because they had this application process where, well, this was back then, I don't know what it is now, where they're like, you'll have a portfolio of like different types of life drawings and stuff like that, but then you'll have a sketchbook portion where it's kind of your more casual work, but you can also show your more imaginative side there, where you can draw, like that's where you can do your character design stuff or your cartoony stuff. So that's kind of where most of my more anime drawings, I guess, lived. But even then I was like trying my best to just not draw anime at all, because at that time I literally thought that would be the reason why I wouldn't get in, is if I incorporated any hints of anime. So I tried to really appeal to like a more Western audience in the sketchbook.
Interesting. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense though, especially at the time. What was the first gig that you got, and like kind of how did that pan out? Did you have to wait until the end of CalArts? Did you kind of jump out a little early? How did that work out?
So basically, after I graduated, there was around 3 months of waiting, because I was trying to land on a job so that after I graduated, it would line up perfectly. But life is not like that. And, I was just like not getting accepted by anything, because I started applying maybe in January of my senior or 4th year at CalArts, and I was like, well, I guess I gotta start applying now if I want to land a job by like June or something. And I was applying to so many random things, but nobody would get back to me and stuff like that. And I was just like, well, no one's probably gonna want to just hire like this random graduate without any connections or anything, because I do find that like I never really get jobs through job applications nowadays anyway either. So looking back in time, I'm just like, how did I think I would even land a job that way when I didn't even know anyone yet? So I didn't land on anything until, so I graduated May, and then it was like super late August to early September that I finally landed a story revisionist job at Trash Truck, which was a preschool show at Glen Keane Productions, which was working in conjunction with Netflix Animation. And that was like the beginnings of Netflix, when it was like all cool and stuff, before everything else that happened.
Yeah.
So that was a really awesome first gig. I feel like I learned so much on that show, and that was also the show where I started off as a revisionist and then finally like promoted to a storyboard artist, and that's kind of where my story artist career began.
That's really cool. Do you feel like you were prepared for the job after college? Or I'm asking because I feel like sometimes like the job of a revisionist or of a board artist is like specific, but in school sometimes they don't really like,
they don't explain it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's weird because I feel like I felt prepared on a draftsmanship level where I feel like I got my art to a point where it's very clear and readable, and I can draw whatever you tell me to do for the most part. Like if you describe this, I feel like I'm good at kind of reading it and just executing it. But I felt like there were things about just working in the pipeline of a studio and on a project that I never learned about in school, which honestly, I feel like a lot of the learning process happened in that first story revisionist gig, where it's like, yeah, I could draw things. I could draw what you tell me to draw, but I don't understand entirely why all of these things are happening yet. Like, I think that was when I was learning, like, oh, as a story revisionist, you're just kind of doing, like, I knew I was doing fixes, but it was more of like, oh, the timing of when these fixes happen and like where they fit in animatics, and like kind of that back and forth between working with the editors, directors, and you as a revisionist and where you fit in that pipeline. Like that was kind of where I was still not clear about, oh, like what is my purpose here? Like I know I'm here to do fixes and stuff, but like in the whole animation pipeline, it's like I felt like I didn't really learn that until I entered the industry. So I feel like in school, they help you get your skills and like stuff to a good place. But then once it comes to like, oh, your role, your responsibilities, and like how you're going to be interacting with these different people on your show was definitely all learned through working. And like even like stuff about the union, it's just like I didn't even know that existed till I graduated.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, that's something that we kind of hope that at least this podcast can maybe help with, because like there's just not a lot of resources about like the structure of productions or like roles, or even like how things break down. And like I've talked to younger artists that should know, but they still don't even know what like, you know, a revisionist is, or like what the difference is between like background designers or paint. But it's not their fault, because it's just like schools don't always teach it, and that's a shame, because that's such a big part of it.
Exactly. That was something that I feel like I hope that maybe the future generations will know about. But also there were moments that I do recall, like I heard about the union while I was in school, but maybe the teachers would be like, oh, but be hush hush about it. And I'd be like, why?
I don't know. Be hush hush. That feels like some like old school, like,
you know, yeah. And I also understand, because like our teachers were of the older generation, so I'm like, I don't know, nowadays it feels definitely more transparent and people are talking about it more openly, like even on their social medias and stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's fine to talk about it now.
Well, I think that attitude is like a big reason why the union doesn't have as much strength. I feel like that's like a campaign run by the studios, you know? They're like, don't talk about the union. It's like, well, who does that benefit except the studios?
Yeah, exactly. So well, I'm glad that more studios and roles are being unionized now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think also, unrelated to the union, but something that's really like striking about your career and your personality online is that you managed to do to have like a day job in animation, like a career in animation, even, because you went from revisionist to boards to directing, but you also have like a presence online, like a really like a strong presence online. And I was wondering, how do you manage that? And kind of what's been your trajectory online? Like, how have you thought about your presence online? Was this something that at first that you always knew you wanted to build, or was it something that you kind of stumbled upon? you know?
So it was definitely something that I stumbled upon because, well, back then, I would say back in my YouTube days and just being online, I feel like I definitely gained an interest and comfort level of just being just a user online that's a part of some community, but I never had the idea of like growth or growing a following in my mind. Like literally back then, I was just a happy old little girl, just not caring about how many followers whatsoever I had and just posting my art. Like literally, I don't even know or remember what following I had on DeviantArt or Tumblr because that was just how non-existent that was as a part of my interest back then. But so when I first started on Instagram, I kind of just wanted to resume my mindset of how I was and just being someone who is so open about sharing their art online, because I felt like ever since I started going to Cal Arts, I pretty much just disappeared off the internet because I was spending all of my time on my student films and like focusing on schoolwork. There was no more time for personal art because by the end of the day, I was so sick of drawing and I was like, I don't want to draw another goddamn character after this whole day. Like I couldn't even like I would say Cal Arts was probably the phase in my life where I had the least amount of personal art. Like if you talk about work outside of, you know, our student films and stuff, but like it's, you know, I was working, hustling, developing my skills in other realms, I guess. So when I graduated, I was like, I kind of missed that part of me that just shared personal art. And also, I don't have a job. Who's gonna find me? So I felt like there were these two things after I graduated where I was just like, well, I would like to be able to, you know, develop my passion for creating personal art again. And like, for some reason, I just can't find that passion from just drawing in my sketchbook and then closing it and calling it a day. Like for some reason, like sharing it with others and talking about it with others was like a part of that passion for me.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So like, I started to slowly post art again online, but like I kind of came back to it a little bit more intimidated because I'm just like, well, now I feel like after going to school and then like, you know, being exposed to so many amazing people, you're just like, well, what am I? Like, who am I to post my art or whatever? I know. So like I would just share my art and just be like, yeah, whatever. And then I kind of gained more motivation to do so because when I graduated, I was like, well, I don't have a job and I desperately need one. And I'm starting to notice that a lot of people in the industry are on Instagram. So I should just follow everyone and just post my art in the hopes that maybe some of them will follow me back and then like be like, hey, would you like to be interviewed for this project and whatever? And I mean, I don't think that that was the reason why I got my first job at Trash Truck, but it definitely was my first way of wedging myself into the industry without being like, you know, networking at all of these social events because I definitely am an introvert and I hate going to, like, that is one thing that I'm like kind of happy about not having to do anymore. It's just like going to all of these big events and like just joining these random bubbles and just talking to people and being like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, even though I just got into this conversation or whatever. And instead, I felt like Instagram was a good place for me to be like, hi, I exist without having to do the whole social networking things. Like, here's my art, here's my page, here's who I am. And, you know, you can DM me or comment, or we can just like each other. And it's just more subtle interactions that you could do to introduce yourself to people. Because, you know, I feel like I've met so much more people through that than going to like social networking events. Like maybe at a networking event, I'll meet like 5 people, but like online, you'll have like maybe 20 people find you in a week or something like that. I don't know. So that's kind of how it happened.
No, it's a more organic way for sure. Like it feels more, maybe even more genuine. Because anytime I've had to be, it's got, like you said, I don't have to do it as much, and it's just kind of a rare thing now with post-COVID. But there's less like meetups. But like, early on, like I would end up at a lot of these industry parties, and man, everyone there just you can feel the agenda. You can kind of feel that like everyone's there to network with a capital N, and it's exhausting because it's like I just want to hang out and make friends, and then you'd start talking to somebody and like you mention that you're working on some show and they have a little light in their eyes and they're like, oh, I want to work on that show. And you're like, oh man, all right, now this is no longer like a friendly conversation. This is like
exactly. I'm just like, Yeah, I think that's the thing I like about social media. You know, despite social media also having its own little thing now, I feel
it's
like
a nightmare. Yes.
Yeah,
but what is
it's still just, I feel like, a more chill way to just be like, hi, this is who I am and this is what I do, and we can just admire each other without, like, I don't know, talking about our resumes as our main conversation point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's nice. I mean, for us, even like even this podcast, again, like, it was a way for us to just like keep in touch with our friends. And we were all in lockup, and so we were like, hey, we have all these friends, like, what if we just started reaching out and like just talking to them for a little bit? And it was just like nice to have a place to just chat about like what we're going through and industry things, and not have this like burden on us to network and stuff. So I get it.
Yeah.
I think like, it's a very smart approach.
Yeah. And like nowadays people can just learn about all of these big creators too, just through someone like your podcast or something, instead of being like, the only way I can get information out of them is like talking to them or something. Because I remembered I listened to, I don't know, there was a podcast with Glenn Keane a long time ago where he was like, back in his day, he had to like literally go to the studio and talk to people. And I'm just like, I would not be able to survive in this day and age like that.
I just don't think any. It's funny when you hear stories from like the old days, and people will be like, I went to the studio and I dropped my portfolio in front of like it's like, don't do that. Like, don't do that anymore. I don't know how that was okay back then, but that is like psychotic behavior now. Like,
I think it's like at the time like animation wasn't in the spotlight as much, so it was really people that were extremely interested in the craft that would do that. Yes. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's like stalker shit now. Don't
I think it's the Clay Cadis podcast, right, Michelle? Like the Clay Cadis interviewing all the animators.
And I think so.
I listened to that one too. And
that was like what I listened to before I like got to school and everything. I was just like, oh, this is what all those people do. And then once it's my turn to start working, I'm like, wow, all of this information is irrelevant now.
Yeah, that's why I also wanted to do creative blog, because I was like, I want to talk to artists who got a job, like who got their start in animation recently, so like the information is a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about like your podcast and other people who are starting to make some sort of presence online who also works in animation, because I feel like this is something that nobody really ever talked about. And also in this modern age, I feel like it's getting trickier to, I don't know, break in. Like, it's like, oh, now you gotta like do all of these TikToks or whatever just to be noticed. And it's just like, what? So I don't know, it's nice to have younger people who are like going through the motion of the ocean with like a generation that's just a little bit closer to the upcoming generation, instead of like, I don't know, having someone that's the age of your parents or your grandparents who's like, that's how you get it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's so true. That's why you mentioned TikTok as well. So so you started on YouTube and then you went on to Instagram. And what would you say is your favorite like social media platform right now?
So it's weird because I think YouTube is my favorite platform, but I'm not as consistent with that as I am on Instagram, because I feel like on Instagram, for some reason, it is easier for me to just make comics, and that is just what I know how to do best. And I feel like I know my audience on Instagram a little bit better. And I feel like, comics are very close to storyboarding, and that's my skill. And YouTube is like video editing and talking. And I don't think video editing is that like strenuous for me, especially a lot of my stuff is just cutting. I'm not doing any crazy visual effects, but it's just like the energy of like, time to set up my camera, time to like, you have to like be like ready and have the energy, and just, I don't know, there's just a lot of your physical involvement needed. And I'm like, oh, that's just so tiring. But I love watching YouTube videos, but it's just so exhausting to make them.
Yeah, because it requires more like, I don't know, presentation, I guess. Like it demands it almost. Where it's funny, it didn't used to be that way. I feel like YouTube, back in those early days, you talked about like you could just kind of make like a little vlog, and people made their careers on that. But as time went on, it's like there's so much competition that you have to do this whole like preparation. Everything has to be like nice and professional so you can
like there's just like the smallest things whenever I film a video. Sometimes I'm just like, is my room clean? Like, is it messy? And it's just like stuff like that makes me so self-conscious. Like, I feel like most people don't care about it, but I'm just like, if my room is messy and I have like tissues like lying in the back, I just feel like, oh my God, I have to clean that up in addition to getting ready to film the video. Whereas like, if I'm going to just make a comic, I don't have to get ready. I don't have to do anything. I could just draw, and that's what makes it easier for me to post on Instagram versus YouTube. But I do feel like I find more enjoyment being on YouTube than on Instagram.
Interesting. Is that because of the engagement of the fans, or is it just like do you like the content better?
On YouTube, I feel like, well, I enjoy watching like things that are more in depth and stuff. Like if I watch a video, I'm literally like watching this whole person talk about their days or like I don't know. I feel like you could find anything, and like the search engine is better on YouTube, where you're like, if I want to look up this story artist's career and they have a YouTube channel, I could just look it up. And if I randomly just feel like watching something about a home renovation next, I could look it up. Like I know where to go on YouTube.
It's powered by Google. I mean,
yeah.
There's a reason for that.
And Instagram is more like, like I just am there to follow people that I'm already following, and it's like, and then I'll just be shown random shit that Instagram wants to show me, and I'm like, I guess I'll just be interested in this randomly now. Like I feel like I have less of a choice on Instagram, but on YouTube I feel like I have more of a choice.
A feed, right? Like Instagram and Twitter is like it is a feed, and YouTube kind of tries to do that, but it never really works. And so YouTube, I feel like, is more, it almost rewards deeper engagement with like specific channels. You have to get invested, but because there is not really like a feed you can flip through. But Instagram,
I have the $1 million question for you, Michelle, is like, do you like the new algorithm on Instagram?
No, I don't. I don't know who does.
Yeah, I'm asking because I've noticed, okay, this is going to be crazy, but I've noticed for myself and a couple of my comics friends, the algorithm has actually been playing in our favor. Like posts for me that used to barely reach 1K now can go all the way up to 6K, which I was just like really floored. But I've noticed some other creators are like, no, my stuff gets lost now. And I was just I've also kind of started using new hashtags. I've started hashtagging my comics with my OCs, and I wonder if that's helped or not. But when I look into the posts, it's like it's all coming from the explore. So I was just wondering if like what your thoughts were on like kind of like posting and like the feed and all of that stuff. Yeah. And if you feel like you are pressured to do videos.
Yeah. So one, yes, I do feel pressure to make videos and reels now, which is why I like literally just started last month after the past 2 years of it being existent. Because I think when it first came out, I was like, oh, is this really going to be a thing? Like, I wasn't sure if this is just a fad for that moment or how permanent this is going to be on social media when TikTok boomed over the beginnings of the pandemic. But it seems like it's been sticking around for the past 2 years so far. And I do notice that when I make posts now, like, I feel like I still get pretty fair amount of engagement and likes depending on the content of the comic I make. Like usually my comics are always what does the best because there's a story, there's a narrative, there's a thing that is somewhat relatable to somebody out there. And I feel like you have more chances to relate to someone when you have 10 panels of something to explain a story. Like, well, someone's got to relate to at least one of these moments in this comic. And then I feel like when I just do an illustration, it's like, it doesn't do like the best. It'll do like, okay, but I kind of post it knowing that that's what's going to happen. And I don't know, but I feel like illustrations are better for my mental health just because I'm like, well, I only have to do one drawing nowadays. So that makes me feel a little calmer to just like, oh, I could do something to satisfy the algorithm, but I probably won't get the same amount of engagement, which is what I tend to notice with reels is that my reels don't do as well as my comics at all, in my opinion. But for some reason, ever since I started doing them, like Instagram has been pushing out my page and my stuff to people more and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And like, I think in your insights, you can see like what posts are bringing like more people to you and stuff like that. And when I see my comics, like for the most part, like they do like decent and stuff. And my pre-existing following is still like, you know, liking my stuff and engaging with it, which is great. And I'm like super appreciative of that. But then when I notice like the reels, it's like, that's when I notice like random other people are coming and stuff like that. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't really know what's happening. So I'm just still experimenting with it now and just seeing how it goes with keeping doing reels. But I wish that there was a world where I didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've been thinking about that as well. I've been like, should I? And I've seen like some of my comics friends who they hire like voice actors to read the comics, and I think that's been performing really well on TikTok.
Oh my gosh, yes. And like, I know there's this artist that I follow named What's Up Beanie.
I was thinking of her.
Yeah, it's just like she literally animates everything, and I'm like, girl, how do you do it? Because literally with like working in animation now, and it's just like all the other things going on in my life, I'm just like, animating something is literally the last thing I want to do. Like, I refuse to get to that stage where I have to open up TV Paint again and be like, well, welcome back, CalArts or something.
It requires too much. It's a beast that needs feeding the algorithm. And so it's like, kudos to anybody, you know, you and other people who like have the mental capacity, I guess, to like keep up with that stuff. Because for me, it's exhausting. Like,
yes,
it feels like a second job, and you're already working a job, so that it must be a lot. Do you have like a way to organize these things? Do you have like spreadsheets of like how things should kind of be released, or is it just improvised?
So a lot of it is honestly improvised. Like literally, I still need to improve my Excel skills. So I have no spreadsheets going on in my life, but I like work better when I can handwrite my plans and like scribble my thoughts. So I have a lot of random notebooks of just like, I write down all of my ideas for my comics and my reels and my videos, because like, I think I'm going to remember it for the future. I'll be like, yeah, I'll remember this by like next month to film this video. But it's like, when the time comes, I'll be like, what was I going to do again? So I just create a list of everything that I would like to do at some point. And then I will then kind of just put it out on like a monthly calendar and be like, oh, this is when I could make a video like this or post a video like that. And I would say that mostly applies to my comics and my YouTube videos and stuff, because those are my more official feeling types of content. But when it comes to reels and TikToks, those are totally like, if I find an audio that sounds good, I'll think of something or something along the way. And I'll try to maybe accumulate maybe 3 to 5 of them and just have those ready so that I don't have to like keep doing them on the spot out of pressure to post something a week. But I feel like the way that I'm trying to do reels is just by using pre-existing content and just recycling what I already have instead of just like making a brand new thing for this. Because I was like, I refuse to make new stuff for this. How can I recycle what I already have going on and create something with reels out of that? So that's kind of what I've been doing for that. And so when it comes to my comics and videos, I plan those out a little bit more like officially, but then with the short form content, I'm just more improvising and being like, oh, I'm just experimenting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's actually really smart.
Really smart. We had some so you had asked your Instagram for questions, and we grabbed the ones that we thought were the most interesting.
Yes.
From @HebeFrog, how do you come up with ideas for posts?
So on my Instagram, I usually just kind of already have a list that basically anytime I think about something that, you know, made me angry or like really had an emotional punch in my life or something, I just write it down. Like, for example, I feel like anytime I talk about the struggles of just being a female or a feminine presenting person, and it's just like you deal with street harassment, or you, I don't know, you might have UTIs or something like that. I feel like for some reason that's a struggle that I don't see like any comic artists really making a story about their UTIs. So I was like, I'll talk about. I know. So I was like, you know what? I treat my stuff kind of like a diary, and anytime I deal with something that's like, oh, well, this was an annoying thing that happened, I'll make a comic out of it. Time to turn something negative into something positive. Or it's like, oh, if there was something really funny in my life that happened where I feel like other people could also relate to this that I noticed, like, for example, wearing black all the time, and then one day you're just like, I want to wear pink, and then your friend's just like, what the hell's wrong with you? Where's the Michelle that I know? Or something like that. So that's something that I'm just like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who feel that way too, because I know a lot of people out there who just resort to wearing black all the time.
Yeah, me.
And it's just like, yeah, it's a great fashion choice. You don't have to think about it.
It looks good with everything.
I know, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's just like stuff like that. The moment I think about it, or the moment I'm just like, yeah, that would be a really funny idea, or oh, that would be such a sad idea, or oh my gosh, this angers me and I hope that it angers other people out there, I will just write it down. And you know, anytime I'm just like, okay, it's time to make a comic, I open up the list and I'm like, which idea am I feeling the most? And I don't pressure myself to be like, I have to do it in the order of the ways that I came up with these ideas. I'm just like, whichever one I'm feeling, I will do, because all of these ideas, there was one point in my life where I felt really strongly about them. So yeah, whatever. And then with my YouTube videos, it tends to be more of like based on questions I get frequently asked. And that's kind of how I base off my videos, is because like people always ask me about like, oh, how do you manage, you know, doing social media and a job and book and what? So yeah, that's kind of how I think of the content to create.
Yeah, very cool.
From @AlinaBLZH, any differences between your approach to working on your own content versus a studio?
So I love working on my own content because nobody is telling me what to do except me. And it's definitely a more relaxing experience because I don't have the pressures of, you know, a studio that is making me release something at a certain time, or I don't know. So I think when I work on my own stuff, I feel more real and honest with what I'm doing, because I'm like, this is my life. Like, this is the realest it can get. But with a studio, sometimes it's like I have to draw someone else's idea. That is something that I'm like, I think this idea is dumb, but whatever, they're paying me. So yay. So I think that at a studio, you know, a lot of people, I am grateful to be working in animation. And I think for the most part, it is like a great job. And I get to really exercise my skills and passion for drawing and cinematography and just movies and whatnot. But at the same time, like, it's still something that you're really just drawing to create somebody else's vision. Like, even when you're directing or something, you're still kind of directing for someone else's vision for the most part. And even sometimes as the showrunner in this day and age of IP, you're like, well, I'm not even running my own show anymore. I'm running some person's book at this rate.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I feel like despite having a job in animation, it is very liberating to just have my own outlet where I create my own stuff, where nobody is telling me what to do. And it's just my own little sandbox that other people can witness.
Yeah.
I like that. That sounds nice.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think of it.
Very
a sandbox
relatable.
that other people can witness.
Yeah.
From @Sayawada, how do you build self-confidence with your art?
Well, I think, like, I don't know if I ever really built self-confidence. It's just more like I just built the ability to not care anymore.
Hey, I think that is confidence.
Yeah. So I don't know. I still feel like insecure about my art sometimes, because I feel like once you develop a sort of brand, it's kind of like, oh, you have to kind of stick to it, especially on social media. And it's like, with social media being such a great form of artists being able to develop their own brand or business, it's kind of like, well, you kind of have to stick to it, and you can't just suddenly throw out some traditional painting on a day that you feel like exercising your painting skills, and people will just be like, what is this? So sometimes when I just think about like, oh, there could have been so many paths where I could have just really developed my painting skills, my design skills, my animation skills. Like there's so many worlds of art that I feel like, oh my God, I suck at painting, coloring, blah, blah, blah. And that's something that I could always improve on, but that's literally not even my focus. So I'm just like, I just draw cartoons and stuff. And I think that's still really cool, but I feel like there are just days when you just get sick of looking at your own stuff that you're like, oh my God, this is dumb. And I don't know, it's like I'll have waves of being like, yeah, I like my work today, this is pretty badass. And then I'll have days where I'm like, this sucks, I'm dumb, whatever, who am I should just stop drawing or whatever. And then I'll have days again where I'm just like, yeah, you know what, it's fine, it's whatever, I get paid to do this and I can go on vacations. So yeah, that's kind of like it's just a roller coaster ride. And I never really feel like I fully was like, yeah, I'm confident all day, every day. It's just more like, you know, I will care some days, I will not care some days. But you know what? Once life starts becoming a bigger thing and you start becoming an adult, you're just like, whatever, art doesn't even matter anymore.
No, yeah. Well, that was something that, like, for me at least, like during the pandemic, like it was such a tough slowdown. And it's like, I assume we all kind of lost a lot of energy, and it was hard to give a shit about like making things. And but something I like worked through with, I went to therapy, but the therapist was like, well, you gotta embrace that like roller coaster, right? And it's like once you embrace it and you know that there's going to be those lows, it's easier to get through them, because it's like, I just gotta like, you kind of have to just write it out and let it flow through you, right? Because it's like, it's unavoidable. Like sometimes you're gonna feel like shit. You're gonna feel bad about everything.
Exactly. And I feel like that was kind of like how I felt about this year, where I'm just like, there were so many things that just happened. And just like, for example, just getting health insurance is such a basic adult thing to do, but it's just like, oh my God, it's just such a process that you just get so stressed out about it that I'm like, I can't care about drawing right now. Whatever I draw is what you get, bitch. So
put that on a shirt.
I'm just like, I gotta worry about my health insurance. I can't care about how good this drawing looks.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like life is always going to be there, and it's going to slow you down. And it gets to a little annoying when people, you know, it's great that there's fans online and people want to see more stuff from you, but when they start to feel entitled, that always gets a little under my skin, because it's like, guys, like, I'm providing you this stuff for free. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I have my life to live.
That's why I wish that more artists, like, I totally understand that putting themselves out like on the camera and like talking to people is like intimidating. Like, it was also very intimidating for me, but I feel like the one thing that always brought me comfort was seeing that, oh, artists have their own lives. They're just not drawing machines or whatever. And like during one of my internships at Disney, I just talked to one of like the people there, and I was like, so what do you do like fun? Like, do you draw for fun anymore? And they're like, no, I just like to look at furniture online. And I'm just like,
hell yeah, man.
Same now. Like, I'm just like, same. And I wish like more artists can show that side of themselves online, where they're just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not drawing all the time. You know, sometimes I actually do dishes and laundry, you know, crazy world we live in.
God, I hope so. Please do your dishes and laundry.
Yeah. I feel like it's funny because when you read like in mangas, like the sections mangakas kind of like describe their life and show their schedules, you're like, oh, well, if I want to be a mangaka, I have to be a machine. And it's like, I don't know if that's healthy.
They're miserable.
Yeah.
Like, I know. Oh my God. Like, they always talk about like their deadlines, and they're like, I have to like finish this whole freaking book in like a month or something.
Talking about books real fast, can you tell us a little bit about how getting your book deals kind of happened? Did you have to like seek out an agent, like a representation, or how was the process like for you?
So that was one of the wonders that kind of came out of my Instagram account, because at first kind of was more for landing a job in animation, but then after I kind of built some momentum on just growing there, it started bringing me these other random opportunities that were not directly related to animation. So somebody came from Penguin Random House and saw my comics and was just like, hey, Michelle, would you like to publish a middle grade graphic novel? I saw your work and we would really love to work with you. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I actually turned it down at first.
Really?
I know. Who was I? This is when I first started working on Trash Truck, and I just landed my first job in animation. I was like, this is what I wanted all my life. and then now suddenly someone's trying to distract me.
Yeah.
How dare you? So at first I was like, I really just want to focus on getting some momentum on this career I have been trying to break into for so long. So I was like, okay, can we resume this conversation later? Like, I really love that idea, but like right now, I just feel like I need to focus on this one thing that I've been dying to do for so long. And she's like, yeah, sure, anytime. So then I actually reached out back to her like a few months later. I think she reached out to me in like March, and then I reached out back to her in September. And I was like, yeah, I would be interested in doing a book. What should I do? And she was an editor, but I feel like she was good because she was actually like, hey, so if you want to publish a book, I highly recommend you look for an agent because they'll know how to like handle everything and stuff. Because, you know, some artists can get deals, but just get totally ripped off because they don't understand the world of publishing, which is its own industry, so far and different from animation that I'm just like, I would not have, even Skillshare could not teach me how to deal with the publishing world. Like, there's nothing that I could do that could help me learn about this world. So this person ended up recommending like this agency and stuff. And I interviewed with this one agent there who is like, honestly, I love her. She's like, she has helped me through so much and understand so much about the publishing world that I would not have understood. So basically I had an interview with this agent and we talked to like see if I would like her and like the fact that, oh, you're going to be taking a commission off of like my work and stuff, and making sure like, you know, everything is going to be fair, because at this stage I had no idea about anything. So after having a few discussions, I ended up deciding like, you know what, she seems fine, she seems great, I'll work with her. So I ended up signing with this agency called Greenhouse Literary, and you know, they have a great like portfolio of different authors and stuff. So after I got along with them, then we went back to Penguin Random House and we're like, here's a pitch for this whole like story idea that I have, which is now called Mish the Bad Demon, coming out March 2023. Check it out when it comes out.
That's soon.
Yeah, so I know it's next year. It's coming like literally in a few months. But yeah, so it's kind of similar to animation in the sense that you build a pitch Bible, but you don't have to like show art, because the great thing about publishing is people just are okay with reading without any pictures whatsoever. So I had to just write this whole like PDF, and your agent helps you write this really like ego boosting thing. Like, Michelle Lam worked at Netflix Animation. She has this number of followers, and she
put all your highlights out there.
Yeah, she's just like your cheerleader. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't think I could have even talked about myself like this.
No, that's why those people are there. Yeah, that's
so
super necessary.
I highly recommend getting an agent. And by the time we like finally landed the deal, and then they were like, yes, we love this idea, we'll totally do it, they're still back and forth, because once they present a contract to you, your agent will know like, oh, this isn't fair, this is fair, this is something that you should not be getting paid, this is... And like there were things about like, I don't know, translation rights and stuff that I literally don't understand. And she was just like, sure, yeah, no, we have to rework this part of the contract, I'm not accepting this. And I'm like, okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of how my Instagram is really the source of how I was even noticed to be considered to publish a book. And then after that is when I like worked out all the agents and I don't know, all the technical stuff afterwards.
That's really cool. Do you have another agent for animation, or are you just like on your own for animation?
So right now in animation, I'm on my own, just because I don't really know like what I would need an agent for yet. I can see like maybe if I wanted to pitch a show or something that could be really useful, but I'm also very unsure about the state of animation right now, seeing that most of their shows are either adaptations of pre-existing things, and it's like original content is not doing as well now as a creator. Like I'm pretty sure there are still a lot of great original animations being made and stuff, but I just see like the majority of things are no longer just like done in the, here, I have an idea, look at this, and they're like, yeah, like it's not that simple anymore.
No, it's tough right now.
Totally agree. That's why you're really smart for doing the book, because they're gonna buy the rights to the books.
Yeah, because I was just like,
it's a backdoor.
Because in the beginning I wasn't really even thinking about it too, but it kind of like the whole like IP thing kind of became more prominent as I was working on the book more. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I think working on this book is just a good idea, not just as like, you know, a financial like backup for like, you know, in case of animation, you don't have a job for a moment, you still have the book. But it's also like, you know, if you do want to pitch this idea someday to a studio, it's like, yeah, you could pitch it. And if it doesn't work out, well, you still have a book. So whatever.
Yeah, totally. No, that's really, really great. Especially middle grade books are like, yeah,
they're hot.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know like I knew that as a middle grade student myself, I read a lot of comics, but I didn't know how big of a thing it would be nowadays.
It's cool. I mean, it's a really like booming industry, and it's yeah, I'm seeing a lot of animation people kind of find a new like side hustle in that sphere.
And I also agree, like what you were talking about earlier, where it's like when you work on your own stuff, like you're your own boss, you make all of your creative decisions. And that's like the best feeling ever. Cause like when you're working in animation and like you said, you always have to, at the end of the day, it's not like you add a little tiny bit of your vision, but it's not your vision. And
yeah, exactly. It's like, I feel like when I'm doing my book, I actually feel like I am pretty much directing my own project. It's like you don't have all the Zoom meetings with like the Viz Dev team and editors and stuff like that for sure. But it's like you're still pretty much just like you have like a designer who helps you with your, I don't know, like the whole like branding or like the physical book look itself and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
And you're like working with all of these people, and all of this has mostly been through email. And I'm just like, as an introvert, this has been a very lovely experience to not be on a Zoom call and have like have decisions be made on the spot. And it's like I could think about it, I could email it back in an essay, and thankfully, because everyone in publishing is really good with reading long emails, they don't care if you send an essay and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's been a really nice like creative outlet to just be like, wow, there's a team that's just so willing to just bring your vision to life and not really have too many qualms about it. Like your editor is mainly the person who will work with you on a creative level and be like, oh, here are the story things that maybe we could rework and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like those conversations are very similar to the ones you may have like between the directors and showrunner and stuff like that. But it's just like, it's just me and the editor, and it's a very intimate just space to just talk about ideas without too many other ideas coming into the picture. So yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah.
We had another question regarding the book from @CherubPunkU. What did you struggle with / find most intimidating in regards to writing your book?
I think the most intimidating thing is definitely the thoughts of making something super outstanding or Oscar winning in the book world or something, where I feel like whenever you have this opportunity to create this big project or idea, you're just like, oh my God, this shit better be the best thing that knocks everyone off their feet. Yeah. And I feel like that's my problem with everything is like, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I have this opportunity, I have to make it like fucking amazing no matter what. But as I make the book, I go through the same roller coaster as I go through in life with my regular art, where I have days where I'm like, this stuff is great. Then I have the next day where I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, why did I even get this book deal? Then the next day I'll be like, yeah, it's like, okay, you know what, whatever. I'm sure this book will just get like at least a decent amount of sales. I don't know. And it's just that pressure of feeling like you need to create something so different and out of this world. But I feel like working in animation actually helped me with that therapeutically, where I was on a show where the showrunner and directors were just like, hey, we're not here to like create something so original that will blow people off their feet. We're just here to tell a good story. We don't care if it's predictable. If you at least just enjoyed the process of watching this, that's all that matters. And I was like, wow, that was so inspiring. And I really kind of just brought that into my book as well, where I'm just like, you know what, I'm not here to like create something that is so different and so outstanding. I just want to create a good story, and I had a good time doing it, and I got paid, and someone out there hopefully will be inspired by it, and you know, great, cool.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, and just a really great thought in general, because I feel it's like at the end of the day, you're reading a story just so you have something to like relate to or find like an interesting point of view, but it doesn't have to like break your brain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's like really cool to see the films or stories out there nowadays that, you know, really are just like, wow, mind blowing. But I feel like, you know, what tends to usually be my favorite types of content are like content that's just like, you know, it was good. Like I enjoyed my time just experiencing it. I didn't need to like be thrown on planet Mars or something to love it or anything. So yeah, I feel like that was just very liberating. And recently I just went out to go watch the Minions and it was just simple silliness. And I felt like I was like, wow, that was just so liberating for me to just watch that. Sometimes, you know, people just made this cute, silly film.
And I think it's really funny. It's like Minions are really like, they're like the new kind of like, they're not cool, but they're like kind of like accepted now.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
No, and I mean, in the waves. Yeah, in the general public, I don't know. I've seen online more and more people being like, I unironically like the Minions.
I know. I actually think about that too, where on a daily basis, I don't really think about them. And I'm not like, oh my gosh, I need to get a plush of it. But it's like when I'm watching it, I'm just like, oh, you know what? They're actually kind of funny.
They're very appealing designs. I mean, there's a reason why it's so huge. Like it's an appealing design. They've marketed the shit out of them.
Yeah, they did.
I think I've talked about it. I think I've talked about it in the podcast, but maybe I haven't. But I live like pretty close to Universal City in LA, whatever. And there is a like huge Minion cutout thing that they put on top of one of the buildings. And you can see it from my balcony.
Oh
and
my God.
So the Minion is just my overlord and looks over me. And so I think I have a complicated relationship with Minions.
I know exactly where
they're peering into my yeah. So yes, it is. I have mixed feelings. But I feel like it is kind of interesting, huh? Like to me, it comes in waves because I feel like anytime there's a new movie, the marketing does really well in making people feel excited about it, and so you get this like unironic sort of I still think it's tinged with irony. I think a lot of people have just like forgotten to be facetious about it, and so it's just like, hell yeah, Minions, and it's like, you sure you're into Minions because you're like a grown-ass adult, but like but yeah, I mean, they're appealing, you know, like there's something of it. It wouldn't be such a huge franchise if they
for sure.
We had some questions from our Creative Block Discord. If you donate even $1 to our Patreon, you get access to the Discord. So come on in there. From Joe Benson, V really loved this question. Here's a hard one, hopefully not too uncomfortable. Since, Michelle, you've worked at Titmouse and such, has there ever been discussion to why male nudity is funny but not female?
Why male? Have I had that? Wait, what's the question? Did I have that discussion?
Just your thoughts. Yeah, I guess like, has there ever been discussion at Titmouse regarding why male nudity is funny but not female? But I think it's more just what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I see. I never had that discussion. Like, I feel like when I was at Titmouse, I was still technically, we were like so separated because we were in our own building. I was on Arlo at that time, and that was also like a Netflix thing. So we were just like in our own building. So I felt so separated. But I guess my thoughts on it is because I guess like female bodies, there's just so much like, there's a lot of like, I don't even know if it's politics or just like things that, you know, women have dealt with in the past that is just like, oh my God, it's hard to like find it funny anymore sometimes with like, I don't know, somehow I actually took this whole class in CalArts about, you know, how females are presented in cinema. And it's just like, at this day and age, I feel like sometimes people are going to, you know, be a little bit more critical with how women are presented nudity wise on screen. And I feel like people are a little bit more edgy about that and stuff because, you know, women could be easily sexualized and this could cause more problems for women or female presenting people. And it's just, there's just so much like, I don't know, stuff that could be problematic with it. Whereas guys, I feel like obviously like throughout time, you're able to just go out to the beach and just be topless. And, you know, if you have moobs or man boobs, like haha funny, but like if a girl walked around with her boobs, I was like, oh my God, put that away, what are you doing, you're crazy. And it's just like there's just so much like, I don't know, hardships involved with just existing in a female body that is just like, oh, it's so hard to laugh about it anymore, unless if you are all people who have probably shared the same struggles and you can just laugh about it together or something like that. I feel like that's why nowadays with these like more female driven shows and like girls are able to finally talk about, you know, female problems or something like that, and it's relatable and it's actually finally brought into the light and people can, you know, relate to it in that sense. I feel like it's funny, but when it's just like haha boobs, it's just like, okay, nobody cares.
Yeah. When I saw that question, I was like, 2 words: patriarchy, male gaze. But it's an interesting. I think it's an interesting question because I think what you're saying, everything is true, and it's also this thing where it's like, I think women have been kept out of public discourse for such a long time. They've only been allowed in public discourse in the past maybe 70 years, 50 years. It's pretty recent. So up until that point, it was all like I think men had the luxury of joking on those subjects. And up until then, like women didn't really have the place to do that. So we were like the butt of the joke, but we weren't able to be kind of like a little bit more involved in like what the joke could be. I think that's definitely
exactly. It's just like, oh, during those times women had to focus more on just like hiding their boobs to just feed their children or something, instead of like, we don't have time for jokes, we're like worrying about what society is gonna say.
Totally.
I'm not even sure how to like fix that over time, because it almost feels like the bigger problem is like treating nudity as a joke, you know, because if you start trying to put any kind of like, it's like you said, you put any comedy on any kind of female nudity and it seems really like insulting most of the time. It's like there's really no way to correct that I can think of, but I'm also not a woman, so I don't know.
Yeah, also I feel like there's so many people from Gen Z nowadays who make these very critical like videos analyzing films and like, the male gaze on female bodies in films and stuff, and they would like nitpick on like all of these scenes in movies that's like, oh, this is like problematic because you're just focusing on this girl's body instead of her character and stuff, in which I totally agree with, but it's just like I feel like it makes it harder to make jokes too about it, knowing that, you know, people are going to be watching these things with a more critical eye, and like, so you know, we're gonna have more sensitive viewers too. So like, I feel like I could find female body jokes funny when I'm like talking to, you know, another girl and we're just like, oh yeah, like periods suck or something like that. I don't know, like something about periods because it's understood. But when it's just like, oh, just objectifying, it's like, oh, that could be questionable.
Yeah.
I was just watching, I've been catching up on Tuca and Birdie, and there was a scene where Tuca just is nude, and it's not treated in any kind of sexual way. She's just standing there and talking to Speckle, to Birdie's boyfriend. And like, he doesn't care. He doesn't mention it at all. And it was like funny to me that she was just standing there with her like tits and ass out. And it was just like, God. And I was like, okay, like it's, to me, it was like, okay, so she's a character who has embraced her own sexuality and her own body. And so her just standing there, if that was a male character, it would be funny, but it was just as funny because it's Tuca. And it's like, I feel like that maybe because it's animated, it helps, and she's like a bird. And she's also, I don't know. I feel that's a step in the right direction. I feel like
it's like grounding in character, you know.
Yeah, I also just feel like the fact that it's like, you know, if they just presented her like that, she's just existing, just doing her thing, like that's great. Because I feel like that should be more normalized. It's like just female bodies. It's just like, I don't know why people are so scared of like boobs or something. And I think Miley Cyrus once made this comment about like, it's not the boobs people are afraid of, it's the nipple or something. Oh
yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it's the nipple that's always getting censored, right? Like the female.
Yeah, exactly. Where I'm just like,
what a stupid thing.
I also just feel so desensitized because, you know, as an artist, you take so many life drawing classes that I'm like, a body is the body at this day and age. So it's like, I feel like more people should be exposed to like all naked bodies, honestly. Like, yes, but not everybody is an artist. So not everybody gets that experience. But for me, I'm just like literally for like freaking 10 years of my life, I just looked at naked people.
Yeah, I agree. I feel it's also, I think it's the secrecy. It's just the taboo around it. It's just like,
yeah, for sure.
Hide all that skin and that hair. We don't want to see
the more you hide it away, the more taboo it becomes. And so it's a self-fulfilling thing.
I know. And I'm just like, I feel like people should just, I don't know, we're all naked, so whatever. We're just hiding it with clothes.
Yeah.
That's true. We're all born naked.
Yeah.
And the rest is drag. From at Brother to Drummer, or I guess just user Brother to Drummer. With your hands in many different aspects of the industry, do you enjoy doing anything completely unrelated, like playing a sport or playing an instrument or something of the sort?
Okay, well, this has not been released yet, but I will make this podcast the first place where I come out to say I have recently got it into slime.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yes.
I am becoming a slime collector, and nobody knows except like 5 people in my life.
Oh boy.
Now 7.
Yeah. Now like what is it? 5,000? I don't know.
Yeah, and then soon to be a quite good amount of people will know.
But go on. Why slime?
So I feel like this year has been a roller coaster for me, and I'm just like literally like going back to talking about like, oh, do you like feel insecure about your art? I feel like this was one of the years where I'm just like, art was like the last thing I was stressed about, just because there were so many like random life events that happened. It was like my sister got into a car accident, my house was like flooded. It was like a lot of adult stuff happening that just, happens to like everyone at some point in their life. And it's like, health insurance, great, cool. And I felt like it was so hard for me to just relax and just be chill and find enjoyment in like anything, because I feel like I have a problem where I want to always monetize my hobbies, because I'm just like, there's so much potential that can happen with something that you love to do, which is exactly what happened to my Instagram and comics. It was just once a place for me to just post my personal art, and now it's the place where I'm just like, well, I hope I get a few sponsorships this year or something. And obviously, like, I think it's great to be supported, like have your hobby supported with money and stuff, but it's just like, I feel like once that pressure exists in everything you do, you just won't like purely love anything just for the sake of only loving it anymore. So I was just like, I just need to find new hobbies that are totally unrelated to making money. And that's when I started watching all of these slime ASMR videos online, because I felt like, it used to be really weird to me. I used to just see them and I'm like, oh, that's so weird. But then now I'm just like, oh my God, it's so relaxing to just focus on this one thing. It makes crunchy sounds and you can squish it and all of this stuff. So I ended up like following all of these small slime business shops, and it's a totally different world. But in a way, I enjoy just being like a voyeur of this world, where I'm just like, oh, people are just building their own businesses and making millions of dollars off of slime. And like, there's so much temptation for me to just be like, I'm going to quit animation and start my own slime business, guys. But it's so different that I'm just like, there's no way I can just drop all of my stuff now and do that. And besides, like, I feel like my passion still lie in animation and storytelling, but like this thing is just so random, so weird, so irrelevant, but it's relaxing to me. And what I can do with it is when I like want to watch movies or films, I'll just play with it. Like I just squeeze it with my hands, because I always feel like whenever I watch something, I feel guilty because I'm not drawing. So whenever I watch something, I'm always like, well, I could work on my comic while I'm doing this. Well, I could work on this drawing while I'm doing this. But no, if I have slime, it's like, your hands are busy, girl. You're just squishing this thing and watching this thing. You can't even draw unless if you totally like just wash your hands and like whatever. So I feel like this has been my new form of therapy that has just been helping me learn to live in the moment and just focus 100%. On one thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what hobbies are for, right? It's like, I relate to all of that really hard. And it is a kind of a gift and a curse that like a lot of stuff I do ends up becoming bigger and no longer my own. And, so it starts to like suck the fun out of it a little bit, and it, you don't have that like agency. But yeah, it's like, I mean, that's why people, I went fishing recently. Like I was at a lake house and they were like, oh, we got some fishing rods. And I tried fishing for the first time and I was like, oh, this is why people do this. It was like something people have been doing for like centuries, you know? And it was like, oh, this is really relaxing and nice and like pointless in a really nice way. There's no way to monetize this. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's like finding more hobbies that just like, oh, they're like, you can't monetize. It'll take like things that make it very either difficult for you to monetize, or things that just are so out of your regular world that you're just like, well, I can only just enjoy it for what it is and nothing more.
Capitalism has really ruined us. It's just constantly trying to hustle to make ends meet. Nothing is fun anymore. But yeah, from user by Allen's Bear, how do you handle making comics while working in the animation industry?
Well, so it's really about strategy at the end of the day, and it depends on how badly I want to make comics, I guess, because my comics on Instagram directly do not make me any money just from posting it whatsoever. The only way that they can make me money is if I post a video on YouTube and it brings in AdSense money, or if like a sponsor is like, hey, we want to like sponsor videos, and through the time lapse of the comic, like, oh, it can monetize. Or if I decide to make it a book and I print it, then yeah, but you know, just by making the comic and posting it on Instagram, it's literally does not make me any money. So when I am working in the animation industry, if I am in a role that is maybe like, let's say, higher than what I was as a storyboard artist. So I was an assistant director at Tonko House briefly. And during that time, I felt like I was able to have a creative voice elsewhere, because I felt like during my time there, I was heard a bit more. And it's like that show I was on, it's called Oni, Thunder God's Tale, coming out this year, next year, I don't know. It's on Netflix. So on that show, I felt like we had a lot of creative input, and I felt like I had a source of, you know, an outlet to say what I think creatively. And during that time, I was like, you know what, my Instagram can kind of chill. And I was doing these doodle comics, and you can literally see like the phases of my comics. Like there was a phase where it's just sketchy, doodly, simple drawings. And that was because a lot of my time was being invested at my job at Tonko House. So these sketches were like the most that I could do at the moment. It's like, you know, it's not too much pressure. I just want to doodle it because it's like a diary. It's like a journal comic, and it's simple. So that's how I was able to manage doing that. But then now I am a story artist again, working on this feature series. I don't even know what it is. So this job is, I feel, a little bit more distant from my role, because it's like, first of all, we're all still working from home, but also this is one of those jobs where it's just like, I just have a meeting for like 30 minutes a week, or I don't know, whatever. And it's like, when you're storyboarding now, it's just like, you can kind of create your own schedule, honestly, because if you know the rate of how you can get stuff done quickly, then you kind of get an idea of how much time you have throughout the week. Like after, you know, I feel like the first few weeks of starting the job is when you're like figuring it out. But once you're 3 months in, you're like, you know, I kind of know what to expect from my job. So during like a gig like this, story artist, I just like have so much more available free time and mental space to just like think about other things. And I'm not like encouraging people to just like work on another job at their real job, obviously, but it's more like, oh, I have the mental capacity to think about new ideas, brainstorm things. And like in the morning, I'm not in a rush to go do something immediately. So like I can spend my morning just writing down ideas, working on a part of the comic or whatever. And it's like when the day is over, I still have enough energy to work on the comic. And it's not like I finish a comic like the moment I start working on it. It's like always done in segments. So like, let's say one morning before work happens, I'll just thumbnail the comic, whatever. Then I start working. Then at night, it's just like, oh, well, I have time now. I can just line art it. And then I'm just done line arting it. And then the next day is like, oh, I'll just color in. It's just like, they're all done in different segments throughout the day, like around like my pre-existing responsibilities.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. Yeah.
And then we had a few questions on Twitter that we can quickly kind of go through. From @CourtneyCSTL27. What was your favorite panel or scene of your webcomic to work on so far, and what made it your favorite?
Well, I don't know yet, honestly. I feel like the top three I can think of was when I went to Peru. Like I like had these 2 final panels where I would just draw myself in the scenery. And I feel like those are my favorite because I feel like I can actually bring a real life experience I had into a comic that is actually like, I don't know, just showing people this thing I actually experienced. And this is the closest thing that I can maybe make you guys think about how wonderful of an experience it was, just because when you're telling a story, you can kind of manipulate people and what they think, because that's like the point. You want to emotionally sway people a certain way. Mm-hmm. So I feel like when I went to Peru, that was like one of the most amazing trips I've had. And I was like, I don't know how I can ever like describe this feeling to people. The only way I feel like I can do it is if I just like draw my experience. So I just drew myself like literally in the environments of this other country and just like the amazing landscape and whatnot. And I feel like it's so different from like my usual comics too, because my usual comics is like, oh, this is me in a suburban neighborhood. I don't know, living life, working, I don't know, basic stuff. Mm-hmm. But then it's just like, when you're traveling, you experience something that you're just like, I don't know how I could describe this to other people. It's not like you could bring everyone that you ever know on this trip with you. But when you are an artist, you can do your best to draw something to make other people feel the way that you do. And then when I made those comics, I had so many people from Peru just coming like, what, you were in Peru? Oh my gosh. And it was just like, really so cute. It's so satisfying really to like make other people feel so like excited about their own culture and whatever. And I don't know. Yeah. So that was just like a very satisfying like moment I could think of.
That's really great. I love that.
And then the other question was, for someone looking to break into the industry, what is something you'd recommend they have for either an animation or storyboard portfolio?
For a storyboard portfolio in this day and age, I would definitely recommend to have maybe 2 separate portfolios if possible. I know that's like a lot to ask for, but nowadays, like, I feel like you need a TV portfolio and a feature portfolio, because you're either going to be on a TV project or a feature project, or you're going to be on a project that's asking for both. And if they are asking for both, you have both to show them, because I feel like I never knew how much like the type of media that you're going to be working on is going to affect the type of portfolio you're going to make so much. Like I used to just think like, just make good art. Like, isn't that all it was supposed to be? But now it's just like, no, people are like asking, do you want to work on TV? Do you want to work on feature? I don't know. And then now everything is a mix of both. So I don't even know anymore. So I just think it's safe to make a portfolio that has an array of different genres if possible. But if you know for sure you hate action, don't draw action. Because people will hire you for it and you'll end up just working on action shows that you don't want to do. But if you know that you love emotional scenes, and if that's something that you know you want to do, then like definitely make that the prominent like feature of your storyboards. But I would just say like make sure to have like maybe a TV portfolio and a feature portfolio, just so that when someone is like hiring and you know they're like, this is like going to be a TV project and we're looking for comedy board artists, like, well, I already have it ready to go or something like that. Because I think job postings are getting a little bit better at specifying what type of project they're on, but it's just like now it's like, well, now you have to have the portfolio that really represents that.
Yeah. Very true.
From @Micah_the_Toon, how did your short films like Endlessly and Pebbles prepare you for your work in the animation industry? And did you learn anything important when creating them early on in your animation journey?
Well, I guess those were 2 of the projects that I would say were, I didn't really make them feeling too pressured by the feeling of needing to make it look great or whatever, because again, going back to the conversation of people saying how like you have to make something like outstanding or like Oscar worthy or whatever, I feel like those were the 2 films where I finally just kind of stopped thinking about any of that. And like the equivalent of that in CalArts was like the Producer's Show, which was this show that, you know, like selected films will get into, and it's showed to various animation studios and whatnot. The only film that got in that I made was Endlessly, and the rest never made it in, but it's fine because the world is greater than that. So I feel like they prepared me in the sense that, you know, you should really just embrace making stuff that you actually like making and not care too much about what does well and what doesn't, because I feel like everything is so volatile in life. You know, the algorithm is changing, trends are changing, what people want to watch is always changing. But the one thing you do have control of is actually working on stuff you actually like and give a shit about. Yeah. So I feel like even though, like, looking back on my old student films, I still kind of cringe because I'm like, oh my God, like, I know I could do so much better now and whatever. But it's like, at least when I look back on some of those films, I'm like, hey, at least I feel I can remember the feeling of working on those projects and being like, yeah, I had such a good time just listening to really like epic music and just storyboarding to that or just animating to that. And now I feel like with my comics, like, you know, I feel like you kind of go down a funnel and you'll start to embrace the things that you love a little bit more. And you'll just start to embrace you for yourself a little bit more, because I feel like when you first enter school and everything, you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to make something really cool. You're just so focused on making something outstanding. But then as time goes on, you're just like, I'm just going to focus on what I like to do. And it feels so good to just only care about that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Michelle, how do you deal with creative block, and what does it feel like for you?
Creative block is, I don't even know if I feel like I definitely deal with burnout more than creative block, because nowadays I don't feel like creative block is really a thing that exists only because, for example, I have a list of ideas that I write down and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to work on this today, work on that today. If anything, maybe I kind of just go on autopilot mode and I'm just working on this without as much passion as some other projects. So I don't know. I feel like if I do get a creative block and I seriously don't know what to draw or what to do one day and I feel paralyzed from doing anything, I just totally remove myself from drawing entirely. I will probably book plane tickets somewhere and I will probably just go there and just totally detach myself from everything and just not care about drawing. And then I will end up meeting people and having new experiences. And then suddenly I'll be like, wow, I had so many cool experiences. I need an outlet to describe this to someone. They'll be like, oh yeah, I can draw. And then I will thumbnail out like my experiences. And that's how I kind of come back from like not having any ideas. But I feel like nowadays, the way that I deal with preventing myself from having creative block is, again, just making a big list of ideas, every single thought I've ever had that swayed me in some emotional way. And, you know, it's impossible for me to create 50 comics in 1 week anyway. So I'll probably always have this list existing. So I'll always have one idea that I can do if I don't feel like doing any of them.
Yeah, that's great.
I think that's really smart.
You're very organized.
Yeah,
I'm a type A, as you can see.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good. I think it's good to, being organized is good. It keeps you actually efficient and working on things.
Agreed.
Thanks.
Is there anything you want to promote or plug while you're on the show?
Well, I guess my book, Mish the Bad Demon, again, is coming out in March 2023. So check it out on, I don't know, Amazon, Target, Barnes & Nobles, your typical book sites. Mm-hmm. And Oni, Thunder God's Tale, the Netflix show at Tonka House that I assistant directed on, is coming out. I don't know when, but just keep an eye out for it on Netflix. I think it should be later this year, early next year. There was not a specific month or year released, but I know it is very close to finish. So yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool.
And what kind of goals do you have for your career in the future?
So in the future, I would like to continue publishing more books. And I think eventually it would be great if one of them could be adapted to a film or a show of some sort. I think I definitely have found enjoyment in just being able to have ownership over my own projects, and then maybe like if it gets picked up, cool. If it doesn't, whatever. And I do plan to continue sticking around in animation for sure. I still think animation is my root. So I plan to continue growing in animation, but I think when it comes to me having a creative outlet that is my own voice and my own projects, I think I will definitely be focusing more with books, comics, and utilizing my social media for that world. And then animation is kind of more of like, you know, if these two paths ever align one day, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I think that's the end of this creative block. Michelle, thanks for being a guest and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to our listeners. Follow us on Twitter at Creative Block. It's creative without the vowels, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor Clemens for editing the podcast and Malik for helping us produce this show.
If you love our show, then support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews as well as bonus episodes. Click the link in the description of this episode. I've been your host, Gene.
And I was V. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.